The restaurant hummed with noise, clinking silverware, murmured conversations, the occasional burst of laughter from a nearby table. But none of it was as loud as my family. Jake, my older brother, leaned back in his chair, his arms slung over the seat beside him like he owned the place. His grin was sharp, his eyes glinting with the kind of amusement that always came at my expense. "All right, who's ready for dessert?" Mom asked, scanning the table. "I am," my sister Lauren chimed in, already flagging down a passing waiter. Dad chuckled, swirling the last of his whiskey. "Save room for the bill." That's when Jake's gaze slid to me. I knew that look. My stomach tightened before he even opened his mouth. "Speaking of room," he said, feigning innocence, "we're one chair short." A beat of silence. Then, with a theatrical sigh, he pointed toward the rickety folding chair tucked near the bathroom door, the one the staff used for breaks. The seat was dented, one leg uneven. "Sorry, family only," Jake said, winking. "You know how it is." The table erupted. Lauren snorted into her wine, nearly choking. Dad let out a booming laugh, slapping the table like it was the funniest thing he'd ever heard. Mom shook her head, but her lips twitched. Even Aunt Carol, who usually pretended to be above it all, gave me a pitying pat on the shoulder. "Real mature," I muttered, pushing back from the table. My face burned as I crossed the restaurant, acutely aware of the stares from other diners. The folding chair creaked when I grabbed it, its metal legs scraping against the tile like nails on a chalkboard. I dragged it back, the sound drowning out the last remnants of their laughter. When I sat, the chair wobbled dangerously. I had to plant my feet wide to keep from tipping over. Jake smirked. "Cozy?" I didn't answer. Dinner continued like always. Stories I wasn't in, jokes I didn't get, memories that didn't include me. "Remember that time Jake jumped off the roof into the pool?" Dad said, grinning. "God, Mom was pissed," Lauren laughed. "Only because you filmed it instead of stopping him," Mom shot back, but she was smiling. I sipped my water. I hadn't been there that day. I'd been inside reading. A toast was raised. "To family," and glasses clinked all around. Mine stayed on the table. No one noticed. The waiter came by to clear the plates. He was young, maybe my age, with dark circles under his eyes like he'd been working doubles all week. His gaze flicked to me, then to the empty space between me and the rest of the table. A tiny frown creased his brow before he moved on. I wondered if he pitied me. I wondered if I pitied myself.
Then the bill came. The waiter hesitated, holding the black leather folder. His eyes darted around the table before landing on me. Maybe it was the way I sat apart, like an afterthought. Maybe it was the fact that no one had spoken to me in 20 minutes. But he set the bill in front of me. For a second, I just stared at it. Then slowly, I smiled up at him. "Not my family," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Silence. The laughter died mid-breath. Jake's smirk vanished. Dad's brows furrowed like he was trying to decipher a foreign language. Lauren's wineglass hovered halfway to her lips. Mom was the first to speak. "Oh, don't be dramatic," she said, laughing nervously. I kept my eyes on the waiter. They said family only, so... I pushed the bill toward Jake. "Family pays." Jake's jaw tightened. "It was a joke, dude. Lighten up." The air was thick, suffocating. I stood, my chair screeching against the floor. Funny how it's only a joke when I'm the punchline. No one stopped me as I walked out. The night air was cold, sharp. I inhaled deeply, my lungs finally expanding fully for the first time in hours. Then my phone buzzed. "Mom, that was uncalled for." I stared at the screen. My fingers hovered before typing, "Me." So was the chair by the bathroom. I turned my phone off. They could find their own way home.
The ride home. The parking lot asphalt was still warm from the day's sun as I leaned against my car, the metal biting into my palms. Inside the restaurant, through the fogged glass, I could see the blurred shapes of my family. Jake gesturing wildly, Mom pressing her fingers to her temples, Dad staring blankly at the untouched bill. My phone buzzed again, and again. I didn't look. The waiter, the one who'd handed me the check, pushed through the doors, a trash bag in hand. He froze when he saw me. "You okay?" he asked. His name tag read, Marcus. I laughed, but it came out hollow. "Define okay." He hesitated, then tossed the bag into the dumpster. "Family's rough." Understatement of the century. The restaurant door banged open. Lauren stormed out, her heels clicking like gunshots. "Real mature ditching us," she snapped. Marcus wisely retreated inside. I crossed my arms. You'll survive. Mom's crying. Now she cares how I feel? Lauren's glare faltered. Behind her, the rest of the family spilled out. Jake muttering to Dad, Aunt Carol fluttering between them like a nervous bird, Mom clutching her purse like a lifeline. Dad's voice carried across the lot. Embarrassing us like that. Jake spotted me and threw up his hands. Oh, there he is. The world's most sensitive. Enough. The word ripped out of me, raw and ragged. Everyone froze. I stepped forward. You want to talk about embarrassing? Try being the punchline of every single family gathering since I was 12. My voice cracked. Try laughing so you don't cry when your own brother tells everyone you're adopted as a joke. Jake scoffed. That was years ago. Or last month? I whirled on him. When you forgot to tell me about Grandma's birthday until after it happened. Mom made a wounded noise. We didn't. Yes, you did. I turned to her. And you laughed when Jake said I must have gotten lost on the way. Silence. A car alarm blared in the distance. Dad's jaw worked like he was chewing glass. Finally, Aunt Carol cleared her throat. Maybe we should all just... No. Dad's voice was quiet, dangerous. Let him talk. The air left my lungs. He'd never said that before. I swallowed hard. I'm tired. It came out a whisper. I'm so tired of pretending this is okay. Mom's eyes welled. We didn't realize... Bullshit. Lauren's head snapped toward me. I barreled on. You knew. You always know. You just didn't care enough to stop it. Jake opened his mouth. Try me, I hissed. I dare you to tell me I'm overreacting one more time. He shut it. The silence stretched, suffocating. Then Dad did something unimaginable. He stepped back. Get in the car, he said to the others. Not to me, never to me. They went. I stood there, shaking as the minivan doors slammed shut one by one. Mom hesitated, her hand on the passenger handle. We'll talk at home. I didn't move. The engine roared to life. As they pulled away, Jake's face pressed against the rear window, not smirking, not laughing, just staring. For the first time in my life, I was the one who walked away. And for the first time, they let me. 3:47 a.m. My apartment smelled like stale coffee and regret. The blinking light on my phone cast eerie shadows across the ceiling. 0.17 missed calls. 23 unread messages. I rolled over, burying my face in the pillow that still smelled like my mother's perfume from when she'd hugged me goodbye last week. The thought made my throat tighten. The knock came at 4:02 a.m. Not the polite tap, tap, tap of a neighbor. This was the hammering fist of someone who'd been sitting in their car working up courage for hours. I already knew who it was before I wrenched the door open. Dad stood there in yesterday's rumpled work shirt, his keys still dangling from one hand. His eyes were bloodshot. We need to talk. His voice was gravel. I leaned against the doorframe, the wood digging into my bare shoulder. It's 4 in the fucking morning. You weren't answering your phone. The words exploded out of him, bouncing down the empty hallway. A dog started barking next door. I crossed my arms. The AC vent above us rattled, spitting out icy air that raised goosebumps on my skin. Maybe there's a reason for that. Dad's jaw worked. I could practically hear his teeth grinding. Your mother. Is she sick? My stomach dropped. Did something... No. God, no. He ran a hand through his hair, leaving it standing up in gray spikes. Christ, she's been crying all night. We all have. The admission hung between us like a grenade with the pin pulled. I barked out a laugh. Now you care how I feel? That's not fair. His fist clenched around his keys hard enough to leave marks. We're your family. And what does that mean exactly? My voice cracked. Because from where I'm standing, family is just the people who get to hurt you the most. The words landed like a physical blow. Dad actually staggered back half a step. For 10 excruciating seconds, the only sound was the hum of the vending machine down the hall. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Is that really what you think of us? The raw pain in his eyes should have made me soften. Instead, it fueled something ugly and hot in my chest. Let's see, I counted off on shaking fingers. There was the lost adoption papers joke at Thanksgiving. The time Jake accidentally left me at the gas station on Route 9. That hilarious birthday where you all forgot until the cake came out. We apologize for that. Once. My shout echoed off the concrete walls. You said sorry once and then kept doing it. Dad opened his mouth. And you? I jabbed a finger at his chest. You always laugh the loudest. Something in his face crumpled. The keys fell from his hand with a metallic clatter. His breath hitched. I thought it was just teasing. When did I ever laugh? The words tore out of me, ragged and broken. When did I ever look like I was having fun? The truth hit us both at the same moment. Never. Dad's knees actually buckled. He caught himself on the doorframe, his wedding band scraping against the cheap metal. His shoulders shook. Oh God. His voice was shattered glass. Oh God, A phone rang. The shrill sound sliced through the moment like a knife. Dad fumbled for his cell, his hands trembling so badly he nearly dropped it. The screen flashed, Jake calling. I stepped back. The movement felt final. Go home, Dad. He looked up, his face decades older than it had been 10 minutes ago. Please, let's go home. The door clicked shut between us. Through the thin wood, I heard him slide down to sit on the hallway floor, heard the wet, ragged breaths as he whispered to Jake. No, I messed up. We all did. I pressed my forehead against the cool metal of the door. My knees gave out. For the first time in 26 years, my father was crying for me. And for the first time, it was too late to matter. The morning after 6:03 a.m. The rising sun painted my apartment in sickly orange streaks. I hadn't slept. The taste of copper filled my mouth. I'd been biting the inside of my cheek for hours. A car door slammed outside. I peeled back the blinds with trembling fingers. Dad's sedan was still there, parked crooked across 2 spaces. Jake's beat-up Jeep now sat beside it, exhaust puffing into the crisp morning air. My phone buzzed against the coffee table. Marcus, diner waiter. Night shift just ended. You alive? The simple question made my eyes burn. A stranger cared more than my... 3 sharp knocks rattled my door. Go away, I croaked. Jake's voice came through muffled. I brought coffee. Fuck your coffee. I got the disgusting sweet kind you like. My traitorous stomach growled. I hadn't eaten since before the restaurant. The deadbolt clicked open on its own. Jake stood there holding 2 steaming cups, his keys still jingling in the lock. My spare set, the ones Mom had made in case of emergencies. His usual cocky grin was absent. Dark circles bruised his under eyes. You look like shit, he said. I stared at the keys. Give those back. He ignored me, pushing past to set the coffees down. The sweet, caramelized scent of my usual triple sugar hazelnut blend made my mouth water. Bastard.
Dad sat slumped in my armchair, still wearing yesterday's clothes. His phone buzzed incessantly, Mom's caller ID flashing every few seconds. He didn't move to answer. Jake thrust a cup at me. Drink, before I change my mind. The warmth seeped into my frozen fingers. I took a sip, perfectly made. The realization hurt more than it should have. Silence stretched like a noose. Dad finally spoke, his voice raw. Your mother found the home videos. The coffee turned to acid in my throat. Jake stiffened. Dad, no. Dad's bloodshot eyes met mine. Remember your 8th birthday? A memory flashed. Mom's camera flashing. Jake, accidentally shoving my face into the cake, everyone laughing as I choked on frosting. My grip tightened on the cup. What about it? Dad's hands shook. On the tape. After everyone left the room. He swallowed hard. You were crying and I panned the camera away. The admission hung in the air like smoke. Jake made a wounded noise. Fuck. Outside, a garbage truck roared to life. The mundane sound contrasted violently with the earthquake happening in my living room. I set the coffee down very carefully. Why are you telling me this now? Dad's shoulders hunched. Because we've been watching those tapes all night. His breath hitched. And I finally saw you. The words detonated in my chest. Jake suddenly lunged forward, gripping my shoulders. I'm sorry. Fuck, I'm so... His voice broke. I thought it was just fucking around. I didn't realize. Bullshit. I shoved him off. You saw me every time. I was 17. Jake shouted, then immediately flinched. He ran both hands through his greasy hair. I mean, fuck. I don't know what I mean. Dad stood abruptly, his coffee spilling across my rug. We need to show you something.
6:47 a.m., my childhood home. The living room smelled like lemon cleaner and burnt toast. Mom sat frozen on the couch, a stack of VHS tapes beside her. Her makeup was streaked, her lips colorless. The TV screen showed grainy footage of 10-year-old me opening Christmas presents. "Watch," Dad whispered. On screen, Jake snatched a gift from my hands. The camera shook with laughter. Little me forced a smile. But my eyes... Mom made a choked sound. "You always looked like that." The realization punched through me. Every single time. Jake collapsed onto the couch like his legs gave out. "Oh my God." The footage kept playing. Birthdays, holidays, ordinary Tuesdays. A highlight reel of me pretending to laugh along. Mom reached for me. Her fingers were ice cold. "Why didn't you say..." "I did!" The scream tore from somewhere primal. "Every fucking time. You just didn't listen." Silence. Then from the hallway, a small voice. "Because we didn't want to hear it." Lauren stood there in pajamas, her face puffy from crying. At 16, she was the baby of the family, and the only one who ever apologized. She met my eyes. It was easier to pretend you were being dramatic. The truth landed like a guillotine. My knees buckled. Jake caught me before I hit the ground, his arms wrapping around me in a grip so tight it hurt. "I'm sorry," he choked into my shoulder. "Fuck, I'm so sorry." Dad collapsed to his knees beside us. Mom joined seconds later, her perfume enveloping me as she clung to my back. Lauren piled on top, her tears hot against my neck. For 26 years, I'd been invisible. Now, for the first time, they saw me, and it was terrifying. The first session, 10 a.m., Family Therapy Associates, LLC. The waiting room smelled like lavender and dread. I picked at a loose thread on the couch, the fabric scratchy against my thighs. Across from me, Jake bounced his knee so violently the entire coffee table vibrated. Mom clutched Dad's hand like he might float away. Lauren, always the bravest, flipped through a People magazine like we were here for a dental cleaning. The therapist's door creaked open. "Family Reynolds?" Dr. Alvarez had kind eyes and a firm handshake. Her office walls were covered in degrees and a live laugh love sign that made my eye twitch. Jake snorted as we filed in. "That's ironic." "Jacob," Mom hissed. Dr. Alvarez just smiled. Humor is a common defense mechanism. She gestured to the U-shaped couch arrangement. "Sit however you're comfortable." Nobody moved. I took the farthest chair, the one by the window. Jake immediately flopped down next to me, close enough that our elbows brushed. Since when did he need to touch me? Dr. Alvarez settled into her armchair. "Who wants to start?" Silence. The clock ticked. Lauren suddenly blurted, "We've been shitty to him." She pointed at me like there was any ambiguity. Jake choked on his gum. "Lauren Elizabeth," Mom gasped. "What? It's true." Lauren crossed her arms, her braces glinting. "We all saw the tapes." Dad rubbed his temples. "We're not here to assign blame." "Yes, we are." The words exploded out of me before I could stop them. My palms burned where my nails dug in. "That's the whole fucking point!" Dr. Alvarez didn't flinch. "Tell me more about that, Chris." The sound of my name, calm, neutral, unlocked something. My voice cracked. "It's not just the jokes, it's that nobody ever stopped them." I looked at Dad. "Not even you." Dad's face crumpled. Jake suddenly stood, pacing to the window. "I didn't realize..." "Bullshit!" Lauren kicked the leg of his chair. "You loved when everyone laughed." "Enough!" Mom's voice broke. Tears streaked her foundation. "Dr. Alvarez, surely there's a better way to..." The therapist leaned forward. "When did the teasing start?" The question hung in the air. Dad went very still. Mom's manicured hand flew to her throat. "Oh." Jake frowned. "What?" Dr. Alvarez's pen hovered over her notepad. "This pattern usually has an origin point." A muscle in Dad's jaw twitched. "It was after the miscarriage." The air left the room. "What?" Mom's wedding band clicked against her chair as she twisted it. "Before Chris, we'd lost..." Her breath hitched. 3. The world tilted. Jake looked like he'd been punched. "You never told me that." Dad stared at his shoes. "Your mother was 6 months along with the last one." The clock ticked. Dr. Alvarez waited. Mom reached for me, then stopped herself. "You were our rainbow baby." Her voice was shattered glass. "We were so terrified of losing you that we..." "Kept me at arm's length," I finished numbly. The realization crashed over me. Every joke, every dismissal, every time they'd laughed instead of hugged, it was all fear. Jake made a wounded noise. So I just learned to do it too? Lauren sniffled. I didn't. Because you're the baby, Jake snapped. Enough! Dad's voice cracked like thunder. He turned to me, his eyes red-rimmed. None of this excuses how we treated you. Mom nodded frantically. We'll do whatever it takes to... Stop! The word came out strangled. I stood abruptly, my chair screeching. I can't! I need air! Dr. Alvarez nodded. That's okay. We'll pause here. I bolted for the door. Jake caught my wrist. Please don't run. His grip was shaky. His eyes were wet. For the first time in our lives, my big brother looked scared of losing me. I took a shuddering breath. 5 minutes. The hallway bathroom was blessedly empty. I splashed icy water on my face, gripping the sink until my knuckles turned white. The mirror reflected a stranger, red-eyed, raw, hopeful in a way that terrified me. My phone buzzed. Marcus. Diner's slow. Want to traumatize the normies with our emotional baggage? My treat. A wet laugh escaped me. The timing was unreal. Me. In family therapy. Just learned I'm a rainbow baby. Marcus. Oh shit, that explains so much. My mom's a therapist. Rainbow kids either get smothered or neglected. No in between. I stared at the message. Neglected. The word sent a chill down my spine. 3 sharp knocks startled me. Chris? Jake's voice was uncharacteristically small. We're ready when you are. I opened the door. He looked wrecked. Hair sticking up where he'd pulled at it, eyes bloodshot. For once there was no smirk, no deflection, just Jake. Hey, he rasped, then haltingly. Remember when you were 6 and followed me everywhere? Even tried to join my Boy Scout troop? My throat tightened. You told them I had cooties. Jake flinched. Yeah, but what I never said... He swallowed hard. I liked it. You wanting to be with me, I just didn't know how to say that. The admission hung between us. Slowly, I stepped out of the bathroom. We've got a lot to unpack, huh? Jake barked a wet laugh. Understatement. As we walked back, his shoulder bumped mine. Not a shove, not a joke. Just contact. Just here. Maybe that was a start. The diner intervention, 11:47 p.m. Joe's all-night diner. The smell of burnt coffee and stale grease hit me like a wall when I pushed through the glass doors. My hands still shook from the therapy session. 3 hours later, and I could still taste salt from where I'd bitten through my cheek. Marcus looked up from wiping down the counter, his dark circles more pronounced under the flickering neon open sign. His smirk faded when he saw my face. Whoa, you look like you fought a lawnmower and lost. I slumped onto a cracked vinyl stool. Family therapy? He whistled, sliding a mug of something steaming toward me. That explains the 1,000-yard stare. The liquid smelled like cinnamon and cheap whiskey. Spiked apple cider, my patented family trauma special. I wrapped my hands around the warm mug. They dropped a bomb on me today. Marcus leaned his elbows on the counter, so close I could see the chipped black polish on his nails. Let me guess, secret sibling, evil twin, you're actually adopted? Worse. My laugh came out jagged. I'm a rainbow baby. The spoon he'd been twirling clattered to the floor. Oh. His voice dropped. Oh shit. Before he could say more, the diner door banged open. A gust of cold air carried in the last person I expected to see. Jake. He stood frozen in the doorway, his leather jacket dusted with rain, eyes darting from me to Marcus and back. His usual swagger was gone, replaced by something raw and uncertain. Marcus straightened. We're closed. Jake ignored him, dragging the adjacent stool out with a screech. I called you 12 times. I didn't move. Phone's off. Mom's losing it. Jake's knee bounced under the counter. She's tearing apart the attic looking for... He cut himself off, finally registering Marcus's glare. Who's this? Marcus, I said flatly. The guy who's actually been there for me this week. Jake's jaw tightened. A muscle ticked near his temple, the telltale sign he was biting back a snarky remark. Marcus smirked. So you're the brother. He looked Jake up and down with deliberate slowness. Explains the emotional constipation. I choked on my cider. Jake's face went through 7 emotions before landing on outrage. The fuck did you just... He's not wrong, I muttered. Jake whipped toward me, betrayal flashing across his face. For a second, he looked 16 again, all wounded pride and fragile ego. Then his shoulders slumped. Yeah, okay. He scrubbed a hand over his stubble. Fair. The admission hung in the air like a surrender flag. Marcus arched a brow, impressed despite himself. He slid another mug toward Jake. Here, you look like you need it. Jake eyed the drink suspiciously. What is it? Regret, Marcus deadpanned, with a splash of espresso. Against all odds, Jake snorted. He took a sip and immediately gagged. Christ, is there actual liquor in this? Diner rule number 1, Marcus said, wiping down the counter with unnecessary force. We don't talk about the liquor. I couldn't help it. I laughed. The sound startled me, rusty and unfamiliar. Jake's head snapped up, his expression softening. Haven't heard that in a while, he murmured. The moment stretched, fragile. Then Marcus cleared his throat. So, he propped his chin on his hand. Rainbow baby, huh? Jake stiffened. You told him? He gets it, I shot back. Marcus nodded. My mom's a therapist. Rainbow kids either get smothered or... He trailed off, glancing at me. Neglected, I finished quietly. Jake flinched like the word physically hurt him. His fingers tightened around his mug. We didn't... You did, my voice cracked. Maybe not on purpose, but you all did. The diner's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Somewhere in the kitchen, a radio played static-filled classic rock. Jake exhaled sharply. I don't know how to fix this. The raw honesty stunned me. Jake never admitted defeat. Marcus studied him for a long moment before nodding to himself. Start by listening. He grabbed a dish rag and tossed it at Jake. Help me close up. Chris looks dead on his feet. Jake blinked. You're letting me stay? Nope. Marcus flashed a grin. But he's not leaving alone tonight, and I've got a shift to finish. He jerked his chin toward the kitchen. Dishes won't wash themselves, brother. Jake opened his mouth, probably to argue, then stopped. Glanced at me. Something unspoken passed between us. With a grumble, he stood and grabbed the rag. Whatever, but I'm not wearing an apron. Marcus smirked. Wouldn't dream of it, princess. I watched, dumbfounded, as my brother, my arrogant, emotionally stunted brother, followed a diner waiter into the kitchen to do dishes. Maybe miracles did happen.
Mom's midnight confession, 2:18 a.m. My apartment. The knock came just as rain began pelting my window like handfuls of thrown gravel. I knew who it was before I opened the door, the same way you know when a storm is coming by the ache in your bones. Mom stood in the hallway, soaked through. Her designer blouse clung to her shoulders, and her usually perfect blonde waves hung in ratty strands. In her arms, she clutched a warped cardboard box labeled Xmas Decor in Dad's messy scrawl. I couldn't wait until morning, she said. Her voice scraped raw. The box dripped on my welcome mat. I stepped aside wordlessly. She shuffled in, leaving wet footprints on the hardwood. The apartment smelled like the cheap whiskey Marcus had poured me hours earlier, now sour on my tongue. I watched as Mom set the box on my kitchen table with trembling hands, water pooling around its base. What is that? I asked, though some deep, wounded part of me already knew. Mom didn't answer. She peeled back the soggy flaps with the reverence of someone opening a coffin. Inside, every piece of art I'd ever made as a child. Construction paper turkeys with my name scrawled in purple crayon, finger paintings of stick figure families where I'd drawn myself slightly apart from the others. A lopsided clay ashtray, Dad didn't even smoke, glazed in the exact shade of blue as my third-grade eyes. All pristine, all hidden. My chest caved in. You kept them. Mom made a sound like a wounded animal. Of course I kept them. But you never displayed them. The accusation tore out of me. I grabbed a brittle watercolor. Me and Jake as astronauts, his helmet twice the size of mine. This should have been on the fridge, it wasn't. Mom's hands fluttered uselessly before gripping the table's edge. I was afraid. The admission hung between us, fragile as the yellowed artwork. Afraid of what? I demanded. She touched the edge of the astronaut painting, her French manicure chipped. That if I loved you too much... A tear plopped onto the cardboard. If I let myself, then God might... The unspoken words wrapped around my throat. Take you away too. The rain lashed harder against the windows. Somewhere downstairs, a car alarm wailed. I stared at this woman, this perfectly put together, PTA president, never a hair out of place stranger, and realized with sudden, staggering clarity, she'd been grieving my entire life, and she'd made me grieve too. The painting crumpled in my fist. That wasn't fair. I know. Mom swayed on her feet. Oh God, Chris, I know. For 26 years, I'd waited for this moment. Waited for her to see me, to choose me. Now that it was here, I felt nothing but hollow. I carefully smoothed out the ruined artwork. Why now? Mom's breath hitched. Therapy made me realize I've been mourning children I lost while ignoring the one I have. She reached for me, then aborted the movement. I found these in the attic behind the Christmas decorations. I'd hidden them, Chris. Like they were a secret? My laugh was bitter. Yeah, I know what that feels like. A sob ripped from her throat. Please, tell me how to fix this. The desperation in her voice should have satisfied me. It didn't. I crossed to my junk drawer, rummaging past takeout menus and loose batteries until my fingers closed around a half-dried glue stick. I tossed it to her. Start by putting these on the fridge. Mom caught it clumsily. Ooh, what? You heard me. I grabbed my raincoat off the hook. I'll be back in an hour. Her eyes widened. Where are you going? Out, away, anywhere but here. The door slammed behind me with finality.
2:47 a.m., Joe's Diner parking lot. Marcus's beat-up Honda was still there, thank God. I pounded on the driver's side window. He startled awake, wiping drool off his chin. The passenger seat was piled with laundry and fast food bags. When he rolled down the window, the smell of stale fries wafted out. Dude, he groaned, I just got to sleep. I shoved my phone in his face, a photo of the soggy box now sitting on my kitchen table. My mom just showed up with 20 years of repressed guilt. Marcus blinked slowly. Then, get in. The Honda's heater was broken, so we sat with the engine running, sharing a bag of cold fries he found under the seat. Rain drummed a steady rhythm on the roof. So, Marcus said around a mouthful of potato, your mom's officially losing it. I slumped against the window. She wants a do-over. And you don't?
The question gave me pause. Did I? Could years of neglect be undone with a box of old macaroni art? Marcus studied me. You're allowed to be angry. I am angry. Good. He stole another fry. Now what are you going to do about it? I stared at the condensation trailing down the windshield. I don't know, Marcus hummed. When my dad left, I keyed his car. I snorted. Tempting, but not saying you should vandalize shit. He balled up the empty fry bag. Just anger's not the enemy. It's the part of you that knows you deserved better. The words settled in my chest like a stone. Outside, the rain slowed to a drizzle. Dawn tinted the horizon pink. Marcus turned the key in the ignition. Want to go make your mom cry some more? A laugh bubbled up unexpectedly. Yeah, I really do. 3:22 a.m. Fire escape breakdown. The clink, clink, clink of pebbles hitting glass dragged me from sleep. I groaned, rolling over, until the third one cracked against the window hard enough to make me sit up. I yanked the curtains aside. Jake was straddling my fire escape like some drunk Romeo, his dress shirt buttoned crooked, tie loose around his neck. A half-empty bottle of Jack Daniels dangled from his fingers, catching the streetlight's glow. His eyes were bloodshot, his hair a mess, like he'd been running his hands through it for hours. I shoved the window open. The fuck, Jake? He took a swig, liquor sloshing over his chin. Remember your Northwestern application? Ice flooded my veins. That rejection had destroyed me. My dream school, my future. Gone, because of a missing transcript. I'd spent weeks calling admissions, begging for answers. They'd been so sure they never received it. My fingers dug into the windowsill. You son of a bitch! I did it! The words tumbled out in a slurred rush. Not 'cause I wanted you to fail. His breath hitched, raw and wet. Because I couldn't handle you leaving. Rainwater dripped from the fire escape onto my bare feet. Somewhere below, a siren wailed, distant and mournful. Jake's grip on the bottle tightened, his knuckles bone white. Dad was always at work. Mom, you were the only one who... His voice cracked. I didn't know how to be alone. The confession hung between us, ugly and exposed. I should have been furious, should have screamed, should have shoved him off the damn fire escape. Instead, all I felt was a crushing, hollow sadness. So you sabotaged me? My whisper cut through the night. Jake pressed his forehead to the rusted railing, his shoulders shaking. I was 18 and stupid and... A sob racked his frame. Christ, I've spent every day since regretting it. The bottle slipped from his grip. It shattered 3 stories down, glass exploding across the pavement. Neither of us flinched. 11:03 a.m. Therapist mom intervention. Marcus's apartment smelled like cinnamon and old books. His mom, Dr. Chen, sat across from me at the kitchen table, her fingers steepled. Her therapist voice made my skin crawl. "You think this is funny?" she asked, her gaze flicking between us. Marcus shoveled cereal into his mouth. "Hilarious. My trauma buddy here got the neglect special while I got smothered. We're like fucked up yin and yang." Dr. Chen didn't blink. "Marcus was 6 when I found him trying to give himself back to the hospital." The spoon clattered from Marcus's hand. "Mom," she turned to me, her voice softening. "Your parents treated you like you might vanish because they believed you could. I treated Marcus like glass because I'd already lost one child." Marcus went very still. I stared into my coffee. Black. No sugar. Just like Dad drank his. "Both approaches," Dr. Chen said quietly, "hurt the children we were trying to protect." The truth settled over us like ash. 6:15 a.m., gym parking lot. For 3 weeks straight, Dad appeared at my gym every morning. Never spoke. Just lifted weights 3 machines over, stealing glances when he thought I wasn't looking. Today, I snapped. "What are you doing here?" Dad wiped his neck with a towel, his breathing uneven. "Learning." "What?" "How to be your father." The admission, quiet, unguarded, echoed off the dumbbell racks. The protein shake in my gut turned to cement. 8:47 p.m. Childhood backyard. Mom had strung up every surviving childhood drawing between the oak trees. Jake manned the grill, flipping burgers, without accidentally burning mine this time. Dad handed me an envelope. Northwestern's reapplication paperwork already submitted. Lauren smashed cake in her own face for once. As fireworks exploded overhead, Marcus elbowed me. "Still want to key their cars?" I watched my family, really watched them, and realized the anger hadn't vanished, but neither had they. The end.